Salibonani, Mabuyani. My name is Bekezela Mguni, your favorite podcaster and a journalism and media student. So today on our podcast, we are joined by Linda Masarira, our very own lead president, to talk about the impact of the nomination fees on women's participation on the 2023 harmonized elections. Thank you, Linda, for having you. And as we start the conversation, can you give an overview of the representation of women in relation to the recent nominations done? And please don't forget to introduce yourself in case I failed to do so.
My name is Linda Masarira, the founding president of Labour Economists and African Democrats. The representation of women in relation to the recent nominations done shows that the number of women participating for public political office has decreased in 2023 compared to 2018 and 2013, which is a cause of concern for the women's movement. We only have 70 women out of 637 running for MP, and that is a sharp decline from over 1,000 that were participating in 2018 elections. We find that this is a mutilation of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which expressly states in Section 17 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe on the agency and all organs of the state to ensure that they abide to gender balance, which is a constitutional provision. It is absurd that political parties in this country fail to align their own party constitutions with the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which is supreme law, which also raises eyebrows and concerns on whether they will be able to uphold the national constitution when they get into positions of power.
We don't seem to have women running for presidents, Linda, and generally the representation of women is low for the 2023 harmonized elections. What has been the impact of the hefty nomination fees on the participation of women?
Apparently, 2 women successfully filed and had their papers verified after submitting their papers at Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, which is myself, Linda Masarira, and Elizabeth Valerio. And we both faced the same predicament that Zimbabwe Electoral Commission was not accepting RTGS transfers as a form of payment for candidate nomination fees, which is actually illegal and unconstitutional considering SI 142, which actually speaks to the need of all government payments to be done in local currency. We have therefore taken our cases before High Court and the Appeals Court, Electoral Court, Appeals Court, hoping that we'll be able to get a favorable court order from there, allowing us to go ahead in participating as presidential candidates in the 2023 harmonized elections. The impact of the hefty nomination fees on women political participation has decreased the number of women that are actually running for political office, and it is a cause of concern and a violation of Section 56 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which speaks to non-discrimination and ensuring that every person has got the right to participate in political activities and equality before the law. So you find that Section 67 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe has also been violated, because Section 67 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe expressly enshrines political rights, where they say every Zimbabwean's got the right to form, join, or participate in political activities in a party of their choice. It does not say the elite, the poor, the rich, etc., etc. It says every Zimbabwean. Thus, nomination fees are supposed to be reasonable so that any Zimbabwean will be able to afford to be able to file their nomination papers and represent fellow Zimbabweans at presidential level, at constituency level, and at ward level.
Linda, we've been talking to people on the streets really about the nomination fees and how it has denied a lot of women to participate in the 2023 harmonized elections. But people are saying, running for council is free, yet we still have low participation of women there. So other than the nomination fees, what is an obstacle for women's active participation in politics?
Yes, running for council is free, but one of the limiting factors for women is ignorance. Secondly, intra-party politics that alienates them for running for those seats where male candidates are preferred over women candidates. And thirdly, there's the misogyny, the political violence, and the lack of appreciation of electoral processes, in that it is actually their right to stand for public office. A lot needs to be done to capacitate women for them to understand these processes. And marriage has also been a very inhibiting factor for most women who want to run for public offices. They are told by their husbands that they have to choose between marriage and politics. And we've also had, in my political party, young ladies who had to stop politics even though they were good and had a dream, because the men who wanted to marry them would tell them that they cannot marry women who do politics. So there are a lot of barriers that affect women political participation, and there's a lot of education that needs to go into the grassroots, a lot of awareness campaigns on the importance of having more women running for public office.
Thank you so much, Linda, for an informative response. We are learning from this. Linda, it's not just the nomination fees, but there are other things that really stand in the way of women participating in politics. But what can then be done to ease the burden of nomination fees on women and people with disability?
We are continuing with advocacy to have the nomination fees decreased, to have the nomination fees reasonable, so that any person who feels compelled to represent their people or who would have been chosen by a community to represent them can do so without being discriminated according to how much is supposed to be paid. But as long as we have reasonable nomination fees, I think anyone will be able to participate in political processes. What is also of paramount importance is to ensure that every Zimbabwean, whether political, civilian, etc., abides to the constitution of this country, sees the constitution of this land as the supreme law of this land, as enshrined in Section 2 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which states that any practice, any custom, any act that is against the Constitution is invalid. We've got a lot of work to do in terms of policy reform, monetary policy reform, constitutional reform as well, because a lot of people do not even understand the Constitution of this country. There's too much selective application of the Constitution, and as long as women are not standing united together in their diversity to fight against all the barriers and ills that are limiting women political participation, it is going to take us 1,000 years to get to Uhuru.
Thank you so much, Linda, for making time to help us understand the impact of the nomination fees on women's participation as we are heading to the 2023 harmonized elections. To our listeners, thank you for listening until the end. And don't forget to follow us on our social media pages for more content on electoral processes. With me, your favorite host, Bekezela Mguni. So with Twitter, it's table_girls. Go YouTube and Facebook, it's The Girls Table. Go Instagram, the.girls table. Thank you again for listening until the end. From The Girls Table and me, your favorite podcaster, Siyabonga. We appreciate you.